Hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday's Talking Reds in association with Tokyo Time. My name is Stewart. Rob Gutmann has finished wrestling with his chair and is ready to give all of his best on this Wednesday day, aren't you, Rob?
Yeah, we'll tread on no more wires. The magic that goes on behind the scenes, Jesus. Anyway,
moving on. With it being an international break and everyone from Liverpool persuasion having a chance to take a bit of a breath after quite an intense period, it gives us a little space to, do something a little bit different. And I don't know if you're aware, but this week marks the 3-year anniversary of our dear leader Jurgen Klopp coming to Liverpool. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a Klopp retrospective today. So I've given Rob a little bit of time to think about it. We're going to go through some of our favourite things about Klopp, favourite goal, favourite player, favourite game.
I haven't used that time now.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I just wanted to I wanted to put it out there that I gave him the opportunity to do some research.
You're going to get some intuitive answers here, so go on.
Intuitive, yeah. In other words, right out of there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about. Sorry, I'm not going to talk about the last time that happened. By the way, which was 7 days ago. We won't talk about that, but listen to the ping from last Wednesday. Okay, before we go into any of that Jurgen Klopp stuff, there has been some recent news that came up this morning that I think we should probably touch on. Now, obviously, with it being internationals, our players have gone over to their international teams, and one of our players, Virgil van Dijk, has been the subject of some interesting comments from his international manager, Rob Gutmann. He seems to think that he needs to cut out the mistakes. He's a little bit too cool on the pitch sometimes. Now, there's a certain amount of irony to this when it's like, well, duh, have you seen Virgil van Dijk? Coolness is what he is, what he embodies, what he oozes, that's what he does. And there's been a lot of kind of attempts to back this away because obviously it's former Everton manager Rob Gutmann and tried to make it divisive like that. But me personally, I listened to Rob Gutmann when he's talking about centre halves. He was a pretty good one in his day. And also, all of the times we have seen Virgil slip up, arguably it has been down to him being a bit too cool. Now, obviously, there's been lots of talk regarding Alisson and the way he is with the ball and how everyone's going to have to get used to it and that kind of thing. But is there a fear of maybe them being a little too cool at times? For example, would the penalty incident on Sunday be an example of that, where maybe he should have just switched on a bit earlier?
Van Dijk, he's chastised himself for that. He said, I was a bit tired. So I think that's a concentration issue, possibly. And even then, I think Sané's away. I think from my point of view, you have to make a challenge, and he's millimetres away from getting
He is close, it's true.
He hasn't come up a lot in talk of who Liverpool's best player was. People talk about how Lovren played well, although I think Lovren, personally, I think he's a heartbeat away from big mistakes. He's got that in him more than Virgil has, I'm sorry what anyone can say. And I thought Henderson, yes, it was a good performance, but I think he's had better games. I thought Virgil van Dijk was country mile my best Liverpool player. He is aggressive, he was first to everything, he was focused, and of course when the big incident happens, he is also the second to last line of defence. He's going to be involved in that. The great Alan Hansen got this thrown at him when he made a mistake once every 10 games. Too cool, too laid back, jockeys that. No, Van Dijk's not too cool. He's what's the word? He's impermeable in terms of he can't be flustered, he can't be knocked out of his psychological stride. He's an incredibly focused individual. He makes clean contact with the ball 19 times out of 20 when he's going to clear it. I've seen his level. I think his level's gone up this season.
I agree with that.
Yes, you're right. Of course, Koeman knows, but then again, fucking hell, he also bought Michael Keane and picked Phil Jaggs
and Ashley Williams.
Fucking Williams. Does he buy Ashley Williams?
I believe he does. Yes.
There you go, Ronnie. Good luck in the mirror, mate. We'll never forget your red Christmas tree and all that, but just go on.
I mean, the reason I brought it up is because, like I say, it's something that can easily be dismissed under tribalism, but it is something that I have thought previously. But the way you say it, that is a convincing argument, in as much as it's not like he's doing that every single week, and in the bigger, more games he has generally tended to.
It's also not a catastrophe. I know the outcome is potentially catastrophic, right? Because it's a penalty against it, but it's not like a man's going away from goal and he just swings a careless one. Like, in fact, Lovren's error, which is a penalty that should have been probably given in the first half on Aguero. That's a terrible error. That's not concentrating. Now, of course, I think Gomez puts Lovren in the shit after a very good clearance from Lovren, but that's a terrible error. When it's shit or bust challenge and you get it wrong by millimetres, you know, if you replay and you stop the tape there and you say to everyone, he's going to risk giving a penalty here, do you still want him to make a challenge, or do you want him to let Leroy Sané go there? I'd say 90% of supporters go, he's got to do something.
No, that's true. However, I think if you spoke to Virgil himself, he'll say that what he would try to do is make sure he's that extra step quicker and just shepherd him out there.
But it's the nature of good players against good players. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. But in that contest, the lose means either you give away the penalty or the player goes on with a very, very good chance of scoring a goal. Because he's one-on-one, very close to goal against the keeper.
No, he is. But in the wider context of the whole idea of the two corners and the mistakes that Virgil makes, I think from international management point of view, I can understand why Koeman wants to say that in the wake of things that have happened recently. But from a Liverpool perspective, I think that the rest of the defence that we have around him now means that anytime any of them make a mistake, we have the speed and the quality to more often than not make that up. So I
bet another thing. I bet no one's actually, more than 90% of the commentators who are commenting on this have actually seen Ronald Koeman in the flesh say these words. These all have been a reportage of his words.
Yeah.
He may have said it. What do you think of Virgil? Because he's an international manager, isn't he?
Yes.
He goes, he's the best, he's fantastic, he had the best game. He goes, gave away the penalty, yeah, Virgil's very cool, sometimes it works against him, but hey, what do I, not even gone, hey, what do I know? Or just throw away comment.
Right,
Koeman
he probably didn't say, hey, what do I know?
No, he probably did. You get, or not. Or you might say, do you know what, but a total, sometimes Klopp gets this as well, a very casual comment which is finished with a bit of a smile or it's just something that's come out. It's presented as, that is Ronald Koeman's definitive opinion that Virgil van Dijk needs to get up to scratch on his coolness issues, which is probably not what Koeman said. I bet he waxed lyrical about it as a player.
You know what? You're probably right on that score.
I'm sure I'm right.
I feel like it's probably my fault slightly.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Getting caught up in there.
No. It's content. We've got time to fill it.
No. It's fine. When you hold your hands up when you're wrong, it's an important thing for everyone to learn.
This is what Virgil did.
Yes, it is what Virgil did. Now, while I'm kind of trying to pull myself out of this particular shame spiral, I think it's time for a word for our sponsors.
Tokyo Time is sponsoring Talking Reds for Wednesdays for the foreseeable future, which were made up about. They're a Liverpool company, they're trying to do things differently, they're trying to do things better, a bit like the Anfield rap, and so they've set up only recently, but already got a lot of traction for kind of what they want to do. They helped us out in America, they gave us hats to wear over there, and very much needed they were in that bacon sun next to the pitch watching the Liverpool boys train. So yeah, since then they've come in, they've asked us about doing something a little bit more formal, so that's what we're going to do. So they're going to be sponsoring Wednesdays on the Talking Reds for the foreseeable future. If you're into your baseball caps, you're into your street style, or you know anyone else who is, or you're looking for presents to buy for people, do check out their website. It's tokyotime.co.uk, or follow them on Instagram. They've got loads of styles, something for everyone, and the fit is really, really good. So yeah, cheers to the boys for supporting us. They're supporting us, so do try and support them, tokyotime.co.uk.
Thanks to our friends at Tokyo Time. I have some very secret information that there may be more than just hats available in the future.
From Tokyo Time?
Oh yeah. I know.
Okay. all the jokes that went to my head stop coming out.
In other words, there might be some things that you can actually wear, Rob.
Oh, shucks.
Okay, so I said at the top of the show that it's been 3 years of Jurgen Klopp, which is definitely cause for celebration in our eyes. So we want to kind of give you a chance, and you can play along at home as well. We're going to try and go through favourite player of the Klopp era, favourite goal of the Klopp era, and favourite match of the Klopp era. Now, I think I'm going to start with the one that I think might be the easiest to answer, which is favourite match. Roberts.
Do you? You know what, I've been thinking about this, because there's a show, actually we're going to talk about later on, which we do on the Overrap called The Greatest, and we talk about greatest things that have happened in LFC history. And our next show we're going to do, well, we're recording next week, is about the greatest match of, say, the last decade. I think you're going to want me to say the Borussia Dortmund 4-3, aren't you?
I don't want you to say anything except what your heart desires. Right?
That isn't my favourite game. I think my favourite game is, on balance, is the 5-2 win over Roma last season.
Really?
Because I felt, at 5-0 anyway, I felt, wow, this is an incredible football team playing at an incredible level. that's about to reach a European Cup final without even having to worry about the second leg against a team that's just knocked out Barcelona. And quite frankly, I think if we hadn't scored that 5th goal on 60 minutes, we would have scored 6 or 7. Do you know what I mean? I think there would have been no need to stop. On 60 minutes, we thought, let's breathe.
It was almost like we kind of realised what we'd done and got a little bit like, shit, what happens now?
Yeah,
Ready for the next half?
For an hour, it was the most complete performance. Another one, I think, if I can name two, I'm going to sneak in a second one.
Go ahead.
It came very early in his reign, and it was the moment I realised we might have a special manager on our hands is when we went to City and won 4-1. That was against all context and reason to do it, and we were such comprehensive winners that day. Not only the scoreline reflects it, but we were so good. And I think it had come a couple of weeks after we'd gone to Chelsea and turned them over, or maybe that was a couple of weeks after. Those two results were close together, and it made me realise, this isn't just myth with this.
The Chelsea one was first, because that was actually
That's right.
first win.
That was a bridge at the bridge, wasn't it? 3-1, yeah.
And I feel like that was the kind of punch in the face that City haven't really fully recovered from against us. That was the first time we really showed them that, look, this fancy new way that you have is beatable, and it's beatable by us, and we've done it again and again.
Yeah.
Those are two really good picks. I wasn't expecting you to pick Dortmund, and I'm not going to pick Dortmund either, as fantastic as that whole
What did you expect me to pick then?
I didn't come into this with expectations. I wanted you to unfurl yourself and me learn along with the people at home.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so the way I've tried to think about this is how the games made me feel, not only during but afterwards. What it made me think about our team, as well as the actual enjoyment I took from watching the ball being kicked. So there's two really. One is Carrow Road away, 5-4. That game is bonkers, and it is really one of those just when the music stops, who's in front. But it was something that we hadn't seen at that point for a while. It was a bit of fighting spirit. It was a bit of, we're going to go to the final minute, and those are the kind of results which started to feed into the belief of the players, started to feed into the belief of the fans. People started expecting late goals, and all of those things are the first building blocks you need when you're trying to build a team to dominate. But my choice for my favourite match of the Klopp era, the performance where if you asked me if we could just replicate that 50 times, it was Porto away. Porto 0, Liverpool 5.
Close for me, yeah.
It was just absolutely comprehensive. We scored the first goal early.
Slightly against developed play, didn't we? Started a little bit sheepishly.
Well, it started as if it was a European knockout away game and we needed to see where we were. And if you think about what our expectations as fans were at that point, we were thinking, Porto's a good draw. We could get ourselves into the quarterfinals if we do well.
Draw away, win home.
Yeah. And then we played them off their own pitch. And this is a Porto side who not many people go over there and do that to them either. And the quality of the goals, like Mo Salah's goal in that game is not talked about enough. It is insane. Go back and watch it now, seriously. Go back and watch it. Oh yeah. And the timing, the absolute clinicalness, the cold, calm collectiveness of it. It's kind of what he's missing at the moment, which I don't really want to dwell on. But that goal was just a moment where I just thought, wow, this guy's gone up another level.
It was also the game we were reminded Sadio Mane was back and that he would continue to be back and what he could do.
Well, Sadio scored a hat-trick in that game. I probably should point that out.
I thought it was two in my mind. It was a hat-trick.
No, he did. He scored a fantastic hat-trick in that game. And you're right, it was like, that I felt was the start of our European adventure last year. I know that obviously we had the group stage and what have you, but in terms of playing the football that will take us to the final, that was the start. So that's my choice for game.
Good choice.
Thanks. Now for goal.
Goal. That is a tricky one. Okay, off the top of my head, it's a Mo Salah goal without thinking about it and being corrected, and it's. Neil Cuss spoke to him about it a week or so ago. He called it a lost goal. It was the goal that nearly won it for us last season against Tottenham, where people, I think for the first time, said he's a bit like Messi, isn't he?
Yes.
And he went, shit, he is a bit. So there's that one. I think the other one that's leaping out at me, which isn't an individual goal, a team goal, is scored by Bobby Firmino at Brighton last season. Salah breaks through the midfield. Arrows are passed to the left to Coutinho, first time, side foot across the goal, Firmino arriving. It's a textbook goal.
I really enjoyed Salah's West Ham away last season for very similar reasons. It's very much that.
Is that him and Sadio breaking on?
Yeah, it's from a West Ham corner. And it's just like goal. Bang, bang, bang. That was superb.
Yeah.
Despite all we said before about the Dortmund game, my favourite goal is actually Lovren's from the Dortmund game. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, because not just because of the way the game went, but because of who it was and what it, I mean, let's face it, Dejan Lovren's had a little bit of a roller coaster in his Liverpool career, let's say. He's never really been fully embraced, never really been fully out on the scrap heap. He's had to kind of keep fighting his way back in. And kind of why he is loved is because he never stops, he never shirks a challenge. He's always willing to front up, even when he's had a horrible time. And that it was him in that towering header centre half kind of way that clinched the game. That goal will always live.
Do you know what we don't score a lot of? Because if you go from an era before Klopp, you'd be picking Gerrard goals left, right, and centre. Screamers. We don't score a lot of screamers under Klopp. Do you know the best screamer I can think of? We're going to giving it a category is Jordan against Chelsea. Two years ago. I can't think of any other screamers that match that.
Was Firmino at Stoke under Klopp?
Oh yeah, that's a good goal when it sits up and it bangs it. Yeah,
because that was another one in my kind of mind Rolodex, but I just wasn't sure if it was pre or post Klopp.
There's probably about a dozen Coutinho.
I was going to say Coutinho scores a few screamers, mate. But it's almost
they're just unbelievable goals. Yeah,
it almost seems unfair to say, but because it's Coutinho and because it's kind of part of his MO, over time they become less spectacular. And my favourite Coutinho goals are all from the Rodgers era anyways.
Yeah.
I thought we'd go in a different direction for that one. But yeah, some good goals to think of. Now, so we've had match, we've had goal. This is the big one. Who's been your favourite player of the Jurgen Klopp era? And this is probably the only category where I think we're going to probably say the same person.
It's Sadio Mane for me. Is he the same?
No.
Firmino?
I did go Bobby.
It's a close run thing for me. And Firmino's probably the better pick because he's had the longer stretch. But his first season under Klopp, his first season in Liverpool's a quieter one. He's got better and better and better. But I'm a massive Sadio Mane fan. I think at times he's been underrated. I think I'm hoping I'm saying Salah by the end of this season and next season that he pushes on. But for me, Sadio Mane's hit the heights where I think he's been out of being our best player. I think Bobby Firmino's consistently been our second best player. Fans might quietly most important player. But Sadio for me has been most consistently our best player now for 2.5 years. And off.
Yeah, I think that's a fair distinction. It's like Bobby is so important to where we are as a team and what Liverpool does on the pitch. But in terms of your magical moments and almost being the catalyst for that, when Mane came in, that first game away at Arsenal where he absolutely skins Chambers, cuts in between them, that was another one on my list for best goal, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those where it's just like, hello, my name is Sadio Mane and I'm here.
Yeah.
And from that point on, you really got a bit more momentum behind our attacking play, and hence we're seeing it develop. I just think, yes, Bobby, he was part of the Europa League run as well as the Champions League run, and there was a time under Rodgers where we were like, well, what do we have here with this lad? It seemed like Brendan didn't really know what he had with him. And
he picks up an injury quite early on, Brendan, a little back injury. Even Klopp didn't have him for a few games, did he?
No, but I think a lot of it as well was there was a lot of issue about where his best position was. I remember him playing, I think it was out on the left away at Old Trafford, and he seemed a little bit lost.
He even played on the right, I think, against Grimsby where he gets that injury.
And it all is one of those where you can see how it would go down a similar path of a guy who was promising, should have been good, but ended up not being good, not fulfilling the potential as we want.
I can remember a podcast with Gibbo partway through that season, and he just was, I'm not having him. He went, what is he? And I struggled with you that John said that. And you couldn't criticise it. I thought it was harsh, but also at the time, it wasn't a crazy shout then. But yeah, it shows you how far he's come. And
I think that's what, when we're talking about this within the context of Jurgen Klopp, I think one of the best things about him is how much he's improved nearly everybody, and I think Firmino's a great embodiment of that. Now, last thing we want to do around this Klopp business is I want you to give him marks out of 10, which can be a bit arbitrary, but within that, if there's one thing you'd like to see him improve on within the next 3 years.
I don't know. I mean, not up to me to tell Jurgen Klopp how to do his business.
No, but
I think there's a common one that does the rounds that goes, is his in-game management great? Could he do better with his subs? Maybe. Don't know is the answer. I'd like to have, I could say that, but I'd like to hear Jurgen's view of why he makes certain decisions. So I'm giving him, the risk of sounding just like a fanboy is totally simple. I don't see really many chinks in Jurgen. Certainly not ones that I'm qualified to spot. And if I think I'm spotting them, I'm probably wrong. I know that's the most commonly attacked, and I'm not convinced it's necessarily fair.
I mean, you make a good point in terms of we don't know the reasons behind why he does what he does, and probably a good reason why we don't know, because there's lots of other people who he'd rather didn't know. But we were discussing this before the show. In the bigger games, then it tends to be the bench that can be the catalyst for victory, as it was pretty much in both games against Chelsea, although obviously we didn't win at the Bridge, but we changed the game from the bench. And when we're looking at it saying that we've got a better and a deeper squad than we've ever had, a squad that's prepared to challenge on multiple fronts, the bench becomes more important. And me personally, that was the one thing I was going to say, that there have been times where he can maybe adapt it more or quicker in matches. He can maybe react to what he's seeing quicker. But I think sometimes that comes down to the faith he has in his guys, and that's one of those things which has been kind of banded as a kind of a strength and a weakness. I think about times where he didn't look for an alternative to Van Dijk when Southampton dug their heels in. He didn't look for an alternative for Coutinho in January when he did the same.
Yeah.
And that was down to a faith within the guys that he had. And both those times he was proved correct.
That's the thing with Klopp, is any weakness anyone wants to cite, but there's a strength inherent in that. I think part of the reasons we're not as fantastic off the bench is he's not a guy who will lightly do what, say, Guardiola does, which will leave a top player like Sane on the bench and think, I'll have him in the last 20. Klopp wants to win a match from the off. He wants to storm the castle, get you battered, done and dusted, and doesn't want to have to worry. He'd like the untold riches that you could have off the bench, and Guardiola has many, many more. So he can drop Sane and bring in £80 million Riyad Mahrez or whatever it costs. So, they have, that is a factor. Yeah. Klopp is still building, I think. I wonder in maybe a year's time, if we keep the squad together and add another player or two, or had we not been unlucky with, say, Fekir in the summer, and we'd had him in the squad, we might have seen better options off the bench. To me, winning a match from the bench is a lot of, if you've got compromised options, how much do you want to compromise your starting lineup? And Klopp goes, no. He tends to want to go as strong as he can from the start. And his track record says, back him.
No, it's true. And I think anyone talk about substitutions and all that kind of thing has to be weighed against the fact that the biggest positive, I think, in what he's done in these 3 years is recruitment. Now, that's not only just about getting the right players at the right price, but building a place where the right players want to come. Because we can talk about the increased money, the increased transfer fees, but that comes from getting your first choice every time. Now, I think that there's been maybe a couple of times where Klopp's decided against what was his first choice and gone to a second choice, but that's more often than not on his terms. I mean, when was the last time we were in a situation where we got who we wanted every time?
I don't know. And actually, we don't. I often think we don't. I think it's slightly overplayed that he's getting first choice every time, because there was talk, for example, that Mo Salah wasn't first choice. It was but he's certainly getting top two choices, and he's certainly being patient. If he hasn't get the main one or two, he's hanging in there, and it's proven right. You're right. The recruitment has been spectacular, but that's not. That's down to the transfer committee as much as Klopp. The common denominator is the manager, and the manager has to deal with these players and bring the best out of them. And we look at players who are at the club as well, who weren't signings from Klopp. Firmino wasn't a Klopp signing. Joe Gomez wasn't a Klopp signing. Trent wasn't. The improved Lovren wasn't. The improved Adam Lallana wasn't. So it's funny how the signings are good and the lads already there were good. Which
must mean he might be quite good.
Yeah. So you know, those doubts, I mean, it's beginning to wind me up madly that, I mean, Fabinho was beginning to be written off quite early on. It's now fashionable to be saying Keita's just not the player we thought we were buying. I think it's madness. I mean, this time last year, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was talked of exactly the same way and went on to be, you know, he was emerging from the season that but for Mo Salah, he would have been talked about as one of the players of the season.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think hopefully this international break will give us all a chance to calm down and reassess, and get ready for the rest of the 30 game season that we've got ahead of us. But I didn't ask you. You didn't give me a mark out of 10.
Of a Klopp?
Yes.
So far, I think he's been a 9 out of 10 manager. Of course, what will define whether that's fair or not is what happens next.
Yeah.
You know, if what happens next is he wins it, he actually goes on and wins the league or the European Cup. He's a 10 out of 10 Liverpool manager, a bona fide legend of this football club. But if we're on course to falling off a cliff later in the season, finishing fifth, then might still. But as far as for what you could have asked for from where we are. As a team who are fancied by the bookies as near as damn it neck and neck with a Man City side that got 100 points. You know, we can't control what other teams are doing. I'd say this is, and who's just narrowly missed out on winning the European Cup last year. I think anyone marking him below 9 because they go, well, he hasn't won enough trophies yet, is chatting shit.
Well,
yeah.
literally what I was about to just say, so thank you for that. I was going to say I'm giving him an 8 simply because for me trophies is worth 2 marks. But he will go straight up to 10 with trophy because I think everything else.
But not the FA Cup though, Mo. If you just
no, I mean
the
top 2. I mean, he could maybe go from 8 to 9 with the FA Cup.
Yeah,
but 10 is reserved for the top 2.
But you know what? I'd rather. No, I'm not saying I'd rather, but I'd certainly judge the manager better. Say we finished second to City by a couple of points and we got like 88 or 90, or you finish on 76 again in fourth, but win the FA Cup. Okay, the latter would be more fun. A trophy is what you want. But in terms of the achievement of the manager and the quality of how he's building us, the trophyless format, where he finishes an hour second, would be the greater achievement.
I mean, it's an interesting question about which one of those marks progress as well. Because if you look at the season last season, we got to a final, finished 4th. If you mean in your scenario with the FA Cup, we got to a final, won it, and finished 4th. So that is progress. But then if you say we were a hair's breadth away from the league, is that more progress? That's probably a debate for another show though, because we are going on into time. It's about time we told you about other things that are happening in the world of the Anfield Wrap today. And Rob, seeing as you are involved in most of the shows, I will kick over to you for this section.
Yeah, we're putting out this week some stuff I recorded last week with various Anfield Wrap contributors. We did some more in the series of the history, what we call history show. We did more of 2001-2002 season, which is a really, really intriguing one, where Julio gets injured and Phil Thompson deputises and Liverpool actually finished second with over 80 points, I think for the first time in the post-1990 era. So it's a really interesting season. We're subscribing for that one, only £5 a month. I've got to do these things. What else have I recorded, as I mentioned earlier, a new show we've got going called The Greatest, where me and a panel discuss the greatest something in a Liverpool context. We've done the greatest Liverpool managerial season in the first version. We did one last week, was your greatest Liverpool front three from the post-1990 era, and you had to combine players who would gel well together. So I wasn't allowing Suarez and Torres. You had to find people you thought properly dovetailed.
If you went for Suarez and Torres, you had to really argue as to why you think it would work in a way that no manager probably actually managed to do.
No, people threw the mincer on this one. And we're going to be recording this week, bringing back the show we do throughout the summer transfer window, the Gutter Show, the Transfer Gutter. We could get down and dirty.
The Gutter's back?
But there have been a spate of rumours recently, so we thought we'd dust it down and get it out there.
Now, there's one rumour in particular that you were desperate to mention, so I'm going to allow you the floor to mention.
Spurious rumour.
It's a spurious rumour. I'm kind of taking it with a whole bunch of salt because I still don't think this transaction will happen one way or another. But still.
I saw it out there second-hand on the Twitter that the Express are running a story linking Liverpool to Martial, who I think is out of contract at the end of this season. But there's talk of whether United have an option on extending by years. I think they might have had with Ibrahimovic. We talked about this before. If they have an option to extend, they will. They'll do everything in their power not to let him go for nothing to us. But if he is genuinely out of contract with no option, then I think he'd be a fantastic option for Liverpool, and the fact that they would be able to do nothing about him would make it all the sweeter one.
It would be rather sweet, wouldn't it?
But it won't happen.
It probably won't happen. But no, there we are, 3 years of Klopp. I'd like to thank Mr. Robert Gutmann for being with me today.
Pleasure as always, man.
And we'll be back next week. Tomorrow will be another show which you can enjoy. And as I said before, we've got plenty coming out today. There's plenty all over there. The rest of the videos on the screen of stuff that we've done over the last few days. Enjoy your international break with some more Liverpool. Up the rest.